Let me grab one of these. It's a live shot. Hello, this is Dead TV Live. We're broadcasting from central Berlin and downtown Reykjavik, Iceland. This is a show that deals mostly with things and stuff. And tonight what we're doing is, it's tonight here, it's 1:23 a.m. in Berlin time. We're talking to Greg Forman. I'm going to get him back on the line right now. So let's see. Got ya. Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, let me grab this one thing now. Let's see. Where's my split screen? I can just do this. Let me see. Sorry. I should have done this right before I rang you.
That's all right.
Okay, good. You're a good understanding person. There we are, side by side, just like the TV news. I know, it's hilarious. Okay.
I love the little comments on the side when people don't like something. They just freak out a little bit for a moment.
Like about the music or what?
Or just like, I read some that were like, who's this guy? Next, kind of. I'm like, all right, great.
Yeah, well, it's not really up to them. That's the thing. One thing. Okay, we'll cover a lot of things kind of quick, but in depth. Like in the '60s, Greg plays with Cat Power, and he plays with all kinds of people, and he's been playing for a long time, and he goes all over the world, and he sees people he sees them from up there looking down there, he sees them from across the aisle, all the different ways. But the best part, the reason why we're talking to Greg is he's a real person that's actually a real successful working musician who's doing it. Obviously, we'll get to why he's doing it in a second. And that's kind of rare. Greg, what got you into playing music, not just listening?
You want the real truth?
No, I mean, you can lie. I don't care. As long as it's good television, I don't give a shit.
Actually, I was about 10, and I saw like a Stones video on like the early MTV, and Mick thing, I was like, oh man, I could do that. I want to do that,
Funny.
And I think Purple Rain came out too, and I was like, these cats are like out. I never seen anything like that. I was like a pretty,
normal.
Yeah, I was like a normal kid, but I knew that I had heard a Black Flag record, to be honest, and like that was the only thing that kind of fit in with me. Like all these other kids were listening to this like soulless music
stuff,
and somebody turned me on to Black Flag, so I was like, I could do that.
Yeah, that's real.
Yeah.
It's funny that you said that, like watching Mick do his thing that he borrowed from
Tina.
Yeah, and among other people. But then there's the whole thing that, Art Garfunkel said the same thing about Paul Simon was singing in his temple. They both went to the same temple when he was like 9, and Paul said it about Artie Garfunkel. Artie Garfunkel was the cantor singing like these Jewish traditional ritual songs, and Paul was sitting around watching all these like prepubescent girls just like lose it over this guy just staying there singing, like rock star style. He's like, I gotta have a band. I gotta be able to do this too.
Right. Ironically, I played in a band with Paul Simon's son for a few weeks. Strange.
It was that good?
It was just, it was a gig. I got turned on to it by Russell Simmons, who's from the John Spencer Blues.
Sure.
So he asked me to do it, and I was like, yeah, I'll do it, I guess.
How was the music?
It was pretty Elliott Smithy. So
okay.
It was okay.
But Elliott Smithy's kind of like the Beatles chord book rearranged.
Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. But Elliot
And a
brought
little
something
bit
to the
of,
table, though. First of all, the subject matter.
yeah.
There's an emotional honesty that's like, whoa, I'm looking at this guy's guts that people can relate to. And he also, I used to sit up, we would cross paths on tour nonstop. I met him.
Me too.
I met him before he even made the solo recordings. I was already up in Portland.
Oh, okay. With the Heat Miser days or
Yeah,
something?
but I was already up in Portland, and we just liked to drink and stuff and talk about music when he was making all those. So we started then, and then he started dating one of my friends, and then, it carried on when he moved to LA and decided to come down there and all that junk. But there was something with his voice. Like, a lot of times you could hear it sounds like two voices are singing, and people swear that it's a harmony, and I'm like, I sat there with him, man. It's one track.
Yeah, it does sound like that kind of like, like that Cuban throat singing.
But also some women have those voices. Like, in a second I'll put this later on I'll play Blossom Dearie. She's singing in this weird little kid's voice that also has this other earthy quality. It's like so strange, and there's some people that have this kind of weird thing, but it's, well, her thing is more like
15 vocal tracks or something.
no, she's just got some really interesting little acrobatics.
Yeah.
Like a thrush, like a beautiful little songbird that comes to your funeral.
Yeah, I always loved the Cocteau Twins.
Well, I still love them. I actually feel guilty when Simon Raymond's about ready to kick off his show, and I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to do my show. Sorry. Right up against you.
Yeah.
But he does podcasts, so who cares? It doesn't matter when he says he's going to play his fucking podcast.
Right.
I don't care. Catch it again. It'll be there forever now. But, serious. I'm really against fast food culture. I think people should have to catch something when it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, if you weren't there when the MC5 played that, we weren't around, but like when they played that Chicago demonstration, where everything freaked out, you're not going to see that on YouTube,
Yeah.
I agree with you.
What about like Atari Teenage Riot playing on the German protest video? Have you seen it?
I didn't see that, but I saw them back in the day.
No, but that was like nuts. They're like right in the middle of a full-on Mayday on a float playing the most psychotic, like upbeat sort of kill rock star shit, and the riot police are just, it's going on a full melee, and they're like right in the middle of their video. They're being filmed from like a building. It's nuts.
Wow.
Germany's nuts. I was just like, it's great. For how conservative it is, it's also just off the hook. Evidently, it's always been this way.
Yeah, the only real experience I have is, when we hung out. I've been there a bunch of times before, but the East Berlin side, that was the first time I'd been there. And it was actually really great. Oh,
yeah, man. It's like I've been everywhere. And where we just got our studio, where I'm looking today, it's like you wish Chicago and Brooklyn and everything was. It's so happening. It's just like explosion, except people are kind of more well-behaved in a different way. They're just going about their business. Because evidently, I don't know, but the last place you want to end up is doing a month in a German jail, evidently. Ooh. The police, they're really, unless they're being a riot or protecting a synagogue or something, they're real business and just matter of fact, like we're the authority, but they don't flaunt it because of the connotations with the National Socialists and the history of the Stasi and all that stuff. So they keep it low key, they're all around. But my impression is if they get you in the truck, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Like it's really clear to everybody, you're going to bump your head, like watch your head, kind of the whole 9 yards. And then just like launch you. They'll take you to some jail like 40 minutes away and just kick you out.
They'll pull that marathon man shit on you with the...
No.
You're pulling your fillings out.
I'm doing that pretty soon. My own. I'm gonna do like a one-man version of Marathon Man. I'm gonna play all the parts, pull my own teeth out, like reach around.
I'm sorry, you're on it, man. You're on fire tonight.
I'm always this way. You didn't know. That's the thing.
No, I didn't. But I didn't know as much about your funny side.
That's the thing. I feel cheated because it's obvious. Like, you know, if I put out a record that costs 50 euros and it's called Smoking Acid, it's got 4 songs and one of the discs doesn't even have grooves on it. You know, it's the most expensive vinyl. It blows. It's more expensive. It's Dayglow 180 gram vinyl. It's like, I obviously have a sense of humor. You know, I'm like, okay, just check this out. Smoking Acid has nothing to do with anything. You can't smoke acid.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I can't keep my composure here. I feel.
That's okay. Well, we'll talk about your paying gig then for a second.
Yeah,
How'd you hook up? Like, I'll ask the lady of the manor myself about serious questions about it. But how'd you hook up with her?
She had this band that was actually most of the Al Green High Records band.
Yeah.
Which was like Teeny Hodges and I think Steve Potts from Booker T and the MGs and
nuts.
Basically, she had this huge band that was like too much to afford, carting them around the universe.
All
and
pro.
She had, and it's widely publicized, she had sort of a meltdown where she went to like a rehab or something.
Yeah.
And then she just wanted a band with friends, man. You know, she had obligations to finish shows and do Primavera and all that kind of shit. And she asked Judah Bauer from the Blues Explosion and Jim White from the Dirty Three.
Sure, all great people.
And Judah was like, you know, I think you need a keyboard player. Do you know who Greg Forman is? And she was like, yeah, I know Greg. He's cool.
Yeah.
And she met me. We were both in Miami, and we met up. And I was like, I thought it was kind of like an interview, but she just wanted to talk and chat and see what was up. And then we just started playing shows. And 2 weeks turned into, this is like 5 years later now. So. But
it's so cool because in a sense, you know, like you get to play one of these roles of like one of these classic cats. You know, I know all these hacks in LA that their gig is like, if there's a heavy metal band, they apply for bands, they get that money to roll around while the band's recording, and then it's dropped, and they've lived their whole life. I know all these guys that work at Guitar Center shit. Their job is full-time joining bands that got record deals where the first thing that management does is split the principal songwriter across from the band. They break up your band. If you can believe this, your own management and record company break up your band, the first mission, because guess what? How do you divide 20%? 5 ways versus by 1 way. So if I figure out who's writing the song in the band, that's why on my records it'll always say like everybody's writing, or all these people's names are on the record. They're not doing anything. They're not even there. Because originally I knew to like cover my ass. I'm like, oh yeah, we just do drugs and make this crazy music together. You know, you got to deal with all of us. Right, you can't get Jeff Davies out of his fucking house. You know.
Well, now he has actually a day job. I've seen him out. He's serving coffee at the Stories Cafe in Echo Park.
Really? Well, that's all good. You know, I'm not down on Jeff. What I'm saying is.
No, that's hilarious. He's out of his house sometimes. I can't believe it myself.
Well, we were talking about austerity. Well, he was on SSI, so they probably nipped it in the bud. So he's not allowed to just fuck off. Would be my...
No, that's true.
That would be my guess. He used to have 3 jobs and had the highest rate of SSI in the country. Because in San Francisco, if you apply there, it's the cost of living.
Right.
So you could just apply there and move to any other city in America and afford your rent and be living pretty.
Yeah.
As long as you got your system that like you're ready to call if they, you know, if they want you to visit, if you can get it so you can make an excuse or you got a reason, then you're there.
Right.
But I never wanted to do that stuff. So back to, so you guys started playing in 5 years down the road. Mm-hmm. And, so that's all well and good. Now, what's it also like? Here's something that was interesting for people, I'm sure. What's it like when you're also making a contribution? You know, a band is like a table. It's like, you know, it's got to have its base and its legs. You know, it takes all the things to make a table stand up.
Sure.
You know, and what's it like having just like this army of weird people, you know, like coming around? They don't even know what they want. First of all, they know that maybe they want to say hi, or maybe they don't know if they can say hi, or maybe it's crazy, or maybe they think that, you know, Chan's writing to them or something. But what's it like for you to see that? Like, say like you guys are going out to get a malt shake, and all of a sudden it's like, you can't even fucking talk.
That's a great question, because it took me a little while to get used to that, because, you know, our band is pretty tame as far as rock bands go.
Sure.
You know, there's not a lot of crazy drugs or anything like that, but there are these like really loyal girls and guys who are just like obsessed with her, just like you said, and they will try and get to her by any means.
Yeah.
And I'm sure people try and do the same shit with you, except you're
nonstop.
this.
Yeah, well, I thought it was an interesting defense mechanism to basically work on my fucking martial arts and not worry about what people say to you. Stop them from doing things to you. And just go about your life.
Probably a lot of people try and impress you too, or they're afraid.
You know what's worse is, man, people will come up, like insane people that we would love to talk to. Just name anybody. You know, like I've been standing there and Nigel Goodrich walks up to me and asks me to record or whatever, and there's people trying to fucking talk at me.
Yeah.
And busting, and people that don't want anything, like people that are afraid of that fan contact, you know, they have this illusion. You know, it's weird. It's like we closed off one of those stages at Lollapalooza when they whipped that thing up again, and fucking all the stars were too fucking big, like all the bands playing, to be able to hang out even side stage to watch the bands that they wanted to see at this great show. So they have their own private concerts at venues in town. So, you know, they offered me, Perry Farrell offered me as much money as we got paid. I think they paid us $4,600. I don't even remember what my cut was. $4,600 to play for 35,000 people or something. You know? But I was like, it was something weird what I got. I'm not worried about the money thing because I split it up. But I'm just saying. Anyways, they offered me the same amount of money to do a DJ set at some club.
Really?
For Lollapalooza. And they actually paid me the same amount of money, my whole band, to play the same night at another club that was private so their star friends could circulate and come close enough to watch our band happen and actually experience something, but not have to come in contact with anybody.
Yeah, well, you know, also a lot of those people just want to say they were there. I mean, there's some sort of like cred thing, you know, because you guys have always been independent. Same with Cat Power, actually.
Yeah.
And it's like people think that, I guess, cool is like inherited through osmosis. I guess I don't know. Like,
well, it is. That's why we're talking, though. Look at now. Cool. I could tell you a million things. You know, Dallas Taylor, who helped me kick heroin, right? He was the drummer for fucking Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Young. Until they pulled some power trip. And because Steven Stills wanted him, he was in before Neil Young. Neil Young goes, fuck, that guy has to leave. Because the main deal was when Woodstock was their first gig ever. Guess who their manager was? David Geffen.
Really?
Pretty nice, you know. That's called product placement. But anyways, so, yeah, absolutely. So they walk out on stage and Dallas Taylor, they're all on acid. They've been fucking all girls like as much as they could get it together, or they said they were. But basically backstage in the roped off area, the shit house went wild. Dallas is on acid. They walks up to the edge of the stage. The sun had just gone down. You know, Richie Mavens has already played and everything. They introduced this band that nobody's ever heard before, but they know, obviously because of Buffalo Springfield, they know who these guys are, and from the Byrds, you know. And everybody starts lighting their lighters. That's when that shit started. And Dallas just stopped like a deer and went, look at all the stars. And they're like, there's 300,000 people, dude. You got to play your drums. Like, you're the best drummer in the world or whatever. He's like, the stars, man. And the whole set, they're not even in the movie because the whole set, he's sitting right next to his drum set on the edge of the stage going, fuck. And they're just standing there playing acoustic guitars, which, how could you fucking hear that? None of that shit's close. They're not even using those. They're not even using like Diamando pickups or anything. They're just like Richie Mavens. You watch him playing, you know, he just walks away from the mic and there's no sound. The other guy's playing it, you know. He didn't care.
Hilarious.
Pretty
Well,
classic.
I mean, there's this weird thing too, like in that era.
Let me finish my story really quick.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
He was 23 years old, so he walked into that band. By the time the album came out, he was a millionaire back then when it meant something, when you could buy a house in Southern California, Newport Beach, for $8,000. He was a millionaire driving a Maserati filled up with coke and a .45 caliber handgun, you know, and all that stuff. You know, that's pretty insane.
Right.
That has nothing to do with playing music.
No.
You know?
No. It reminds me of some Sly and the Family Stone shit. Those stories are crazy too.
That's just absolutely amazing, and he's up there, just like his story and Victor from the Village People, knowing that guy from in the Lower Haight up there. God, can you possibly be any bigger than those guys were? You know, and he was the only one who got paid for all that because he actually wrote it, that stuff. The black guy in the band wasn't just a cocksucker. He was the real deal.
The Indian got fucked again, huh?
How can you...
Second time in U.S. history.
No, it's like, yeah. No, how can you own a sunset? Big Chief says, no deal.
Yeah, no, you're right. First was the American Indians, then was that guy with the litter who's always crying.
Yeah, Iron Eyes Cody.
Right. And then the Village People.
So funny. That stuff's funny. Okay, now you were going to say something. Okay, let me think. Where were we headed with that? Okay, so we got the sycophants. I was thinking it would be really interesting. I want to make a short film. And this film would be where I would talk to people like, you know, talk to you and Jan and just be like, tell us about your most insane fan. And it would just start for 1 second where you go, well, there is this one girl, and it just cuts, and we're like at their parents' house, and we're just getting into this person's mind. And we go around the world. Right. So it like listed, it's this film about Jack Black and whoever, Radiohead, and all these different people, you know, you're checking out. And then it's not really about them. It's about the one person that makes those people afraid to fucking get out of the tour bus even and walk 10 feet to the backstage.
Well, she definitely has had, we played once, we did this one tour of like outdoor places, and there was this weird guy roaming around with like a backpack. You know, who knows what was in it, but like he went up to her and was saying all sorts of weird fucking crazy shit, and had to be like escorted away, and then he started running. I mean, it was like... Well,
look what happened to Bjork, man. Some guy fucking sent her a videotape of him killing himself.
Right.
And she's got, there's that fucking YouTube of her clocking that bitch in the airport with some bitch is flying around the world bugging her everywhere she goes. I mean, for no reason. I would hit her too.
I'm sure you get that a lot because people...
It's crazy, Greg, I'm not kidding. People find out I'm in Iceland, and that's a small place. And I'll be sitting having coffee with my friend, and these people come up and, hi, we just flew here from Tasmania. Literally the other side of the planet, because we heard you were in Iceland. We knew we'd see you. And I was like, I'm glad you came, you know, check out some stuff. You know?
Well, I think there's like a, you know, when people take your music to heart, and I'm only speaking probably for you.
No, we're talking about everybody, basically, from our experience.
Yeah, I mean, they probably feel like you owe them something, or that, you know, they can invade your personal life, which is like...
It gets weirder when people think, like, if people write me a letter and they say, and this happens about 40 times a day. Not kidding. Somebody goes, I really like your band. I was hoping that you would like my band too, basically. And what people don't understand about the exchange is, there is, I can't even... All I know is there's roughly over 6 billion people on the planet. I have no idea how good their bands are, whether I'm interested in their style of music.
Right.
That's not why I make music. I have no control over who listens to me. I even actually sell my records in China. I have a Chinese record deal I had since 1996. I signed my Japanese record deal with a Chinese label called Rock Records that are based out of Shanghai, the biggest label on the planet. And they, you know, so I'm just saying that it's like such a weird situation. I don't think people understand that side of it. Because I do love stuff and I want to check it out, but you know, it's like an economy of time. We have to work on our own shit, have our own shit together a little bit. Then we got to have our lives.
Yeah, you've got a place there. You've got a wife. You've got friends. You've got people that you know. That like we're talking now. It's like, I mean, I get it too. I get the runoff from like the Sean Marshall. They're like, can you please give this CD to Sean? I was like, you know, I can try, but she'll never listen to it. You know,
there's just no way. There is no fucking way. Even like to try and describe to somebody when we're sitting on the tour bus. You know, we just did 64 shows in a row. It takes us 6 months if we go out. It takes us 6 months to half-ass tour the world. And we're already doing 40 times more than Oasis would dare, and they would call it a world tour.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
I remember Little Steven or something was talking about in some interview about trying to get Primal Scream over for like 20 shows, and he was like, their tour manager or their manager was like, oh no, they could never do 20 shows, you know. And Little Steven was like, man, we do like a show a night for 300
days.
Nights.
Yeah, I know.
So, but I also understand that side of it. I mean, you know.
No, British people are notorious pussies because, you know, people were telling us, well, listen, people were telling us, oh no, you can't fly into London and play the next day in Glasgow. I'm like, it's 10 fucking hours. The roads aren't like yours in America. I'm like, I know, they're the best in the world. The M1 is perfect.
Perfect.
And you could drive faster.
Exactly.
You know, it's like, what are you talking about, man? I could get there in 8 hours or less.
I mean, we played in, you know, at the Olympia in Paris, and then took
we played there.
The Channel the next day, and
yeah.
then played London on Jules Holland the next night. I mean, what's the big deal, you know?
Yeah, it's just a different thing, you know. The weird thing. What about touring in Europe? Does it bug you that the show's got to be over for a disco or the train, no matter what?
Fuck sucks, man. You know, if the show's going to be over, could the music be at least good? You know, it's like...
They just pull that shit, man. There's rarely a shitty disco. And for bands like our bands, we would have the place filled all night to the rafters if we were just DJing.
Yeah, well, you remember you came and DJ... I asked
yeah.
you to please DJ the Berlin show, and it was great. And then what happened? We went over to 8mm, and it kept going till, like, people couldn't stand it anymore.
And that's what I love about the States, a lot of those places, you know, especially back in New Orleans before the flood. You know, it's never been a spectacular place for our type of bands. Probably better for your group because...
You'd be surprised.
Okay, well, it's a tough place then.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're like...
a tourist booze... One-Arm Willie in the Smokin' Blues review.
Yeah, or Jimmy Buffett, you know, just whining away about Margaritaville.
You guys can't see this, but maybe because I'm recording it, it'll be here on the page, and I'll be able to put it on Facebook after we're done. This interview, just so people can check it out.
Oh, they can't see this live?
They're watching this live, but I'm recording it so you can see it later. Both of us together.
Cool. Do you think that anybody else is watching at this point? Or do you think they're kind of...
I would say there's 400 people watching right now. I have 65 individual players. That doesn't count our websites. See, because I can just call up right now and in 10 minutes, like if you said, I want gregformanisgod.com, I would have it and this player playing on it in 45 minutes. It would already be a website. It takes me that long to make one.
On the right, I don't see the chat stuff happening anymore. Maybe
Well, okay. See, because I can switch it to chat room or anything else. Watch, like while we're talking, I could go. I'm going to add a screencast. Let's see.
Like mine
1 second. Watch this. We'll get this going. Watch this. Let's see. I've got a screencast, so now I'm just going to put this. The sound choice will be. Let's see. I shouldn't talk like. I should just do it like the mysterious guy that I am. Okay. Now if I move these, here we are down here. There's going to be a little bit of a lag, but it looks like I'm doing it right here. Here we are in the actual chat room coming up on the screen in 1 second. It looks like there's about a 5-second lag. It says G Grace 25. Yep, watching. Haha. Bev is all hi. You know.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing I saw was if around somebody going, "Who is this guy next?"
You know what?
I was like, awesome.
The only drawback that I have so far, like I said, I'm gonna get these interns coming up for a lot of different reasons. One, I want to teach some local people, even in German, how to produce with Pro Tools and how to do it. It doesn't matter if they're DJs or anything. The kind of practical application they get in my studio is the only other place they're gonna get it is like Kevin Shields or somebody or Reza. Period. Because we just go wacko. We basically invent different ways you can use it, not the way that you have to use it specifically, but we beta test that shit and always have since it was Sound Designer, you know. So we basically call up Pro Tools and go, we found out what you can't do.
So are you going to have a commercial now that's going to be
No.
like Windows 7? You know, and I made this.
No. I never even put my name as a beta tester or anything on that stuff because I won't do it as a job.
Yeah, of course.
But I'll be in a cutting edge studio and go, oh, this is how your thing works because you guys don't know how to use it. Because they just have some guys like who are recording enthusiasts fucking around with this shit all day and sending bugs back to tweaking it. But those guys, it's not quite the same thing as like if you gave it to make Loveless or something, you'd really find out.
Here, I'm going to throw this in the mix.
Yeah, it's a rolling space echo. That's
Just
8.
for those people out there who haven't had experience with that.
So did you pick that up? That was in Florida?
Yeah.
Were you living down there?
I lived down there just for a few months. Marshall has a house there.
Oh. It's not my style, man. I like the ice.
Yeah.
You can have the Vice, Miami.
Yeah, no, I can't take the weather there. It's rough.
You know what the weird thing about the difference between northern cultures and southern cultures is? Obviously, you can figure out how to live in cold weather and live pretty fucking well. I don't know if you've been to Oslo or any of the Scandinavian countries, right? It's really hard to figure out how to live well in hot weather. You've got to have some oil under your ass or something. Otherwise, you're fucked.
Yeah, well.
It's just a big old drag.
And the culture down there, too, is just a little...
Wild.
Yeah, it's just not it's not really for me, like...
We call it, in Iceland, we call it FM culture. But basically, because of, back in like, Iceland forever was this like, the radio would be like this. Today, it is snow. Tomorrow, snow. Enjoy this song. Real quiet and calm the whole time. And then all of a sudden, the whole like, Power 106 with the super jam. And everything's boom, boom, boom. And all that shit came in. They legalized selling booze, in Iceland in 87.
Right.
So then it was just like, oh my God, all this crap's coming to our culture now. So people like Singapore Sling and all my friends and everybody are like, they call everyone who just picked up this new, like LA thing, let's be rich, let's fucking be assholes. They call those people FM culture. And it harkens back to the day when the radio changed.
That's a good term.
Yeah, it's funny, FM.
So what, bringing it back to, we were talking about like revolutionaries in music, people like Greg Shaw and people like...
Phil Spector, we mentioned.
Yeah, Phil Spector, and I mean to some extent, Alan McGee when creation was
Absolutely.
I mean, to me, as a young person in the mid to late '80s, a teenager, Creation Records was like
the shit.
Line.
Sure, just like 4AD, man. It was one of the labels that kicked butt. You could there was a highest percentage level ever of all time where you could probably trust that if the cover was good, it was going to be a good record.
Totally. I mean, there was a point in time where all I could do was buy appeal sections, and you know, on the front cover they have all these band names.
Sure.
And I would just go like, the Cocteau Twins. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Jesus Mary Chain. This sounds weird.
Greg, before that, man, when we were kids, when the punk thing first started happening, when I was a little kid, right? We used to figure out the band names that were cool and just write them on our backpack. When the Buzzcocks came out and stuff, and the Americans in California, when we heard about all that stuff and we're waiting for these bands to come out, we just started supporting them before you could get their records.
You know, here's a good record. I've been getting back into this lately too.
Of course, Alan and I. You know, I love those guys. Kevin Haskins is a real dude. You know, there's one problem with that band that's interesting. It's a similar problem to my band and probably being in a group with Chan or something else. If you end up writing all those songs, you get all the publishing money, man, and this income, this thing happens. You know, it's like in that band, since time immemorial, it's like Kevin Haskins. Daniel eats whatever he wants because he wrote all that stuff from the beginning. And those guys, if they're not on tour or getting paid for making records, those guys eat oatmeal. A little bit better than that. Yes, because of all the publishing, shit.
Well, I was trying to. Yeah. Wow, that's a whole different story.
Not in a big deal. Pink Flag. I just posted that link.
I'm just picking out Dennis's records. He's stuff that looks important that I grew up with. This is a good one.
Oh, of course.
All good. All good.
It's really cool. That's one thing that besides this interview, of course, Noy.
Dennis has some good shit up in this piece.
He's really, I could just tell, man. I was getting the vibe off Skype. The smoke was just coming off the screen. I was like, this is hot.
You know,
yeah, the wipers.
This is the super jam. You wanted that, right? Yeah, I turned Dennis onto the wipers. Here's a band that I like. You know this cat? You probably know this guy.
Who?
It's Ian Svenonius from the Makeup, and he has this new band called Shane and the Gang.
Interesting.
You know that dude?
I don't know him personally. You know the guys that I know from DC are these guys.
Let me see.
The Cheekbone Hollows.
Oh yeah, Stuart.
Yeah.
Stu balls.
He's funnier than shit.
I love the Jonathan Fireeater stuff.
Yeah. He was kicking butt for a while there.
Yeah, he's quite a character.
Very, very cool. You know, I'm always into that stuff.
What I'm sure these people would want to know, not to turn the interview tables on you, but
that's great.
What do you consider now? If somebody were to ask you stuff that really inspired you, that caused you to either A, make your music, B, put out records, B, your attitude towards keeping music evil and or independent, you know, like who are some of these people that some of these people reading or listening might not know, you know?
Well, you know, the do-it-yourself thing, Crass really hit that home for me. Just the concept of you making your own reality on every level.
Sure.
You're like having bookstores or something. You're getting the word out. You're like, check out this author. And Dylan, for a while, his whole point was just name-dropping quotes and names and facts and people pointing you. William S. Burroughs, you know, like those books, people don't understand. There are William S. Burroughs books that are like The Place of Dead Roads, where it's a story about a really filthy homosexual gunfighter, right? And nobody would ever want to read about this guy talking about, you know, licking shit off whatever. It's like absolutely obscene filth, right? But buried in this book, the point of the book is he put every single magic book, the real ones that you'd ever need, every single spell in a book, in the story. So nobody would want to read it because of the subject matter, but here you read it and they're doing these spells that actually like sex, magic, and all kinds of stuff that are real. I thought that was interesting. There's like hidden information.
It's like, you know...
But that's guilt money. You know.
What else? What else inspired you?
Okay, well first...
What musically?
Okay, well then we got to start to the beginning.
Let's start at the beginning.
Okay, I'm under the understanding, first of all, that 1 in 10,000 people have musical aptitude. That means that you can actually hear the harmony of the spheres, or understand it, you grasp it, and you can hear it do things on a different level. Everybody else downgrades. They're like a reflection or a shadow of that. Now, that's why Madonna, every single song is like a virgin,
Right.
nothing to help you lose the time. Every single song, Papa Don't Preach. It's not like really melodic. It's actually just rhythmic
It's like
beats and blobs.
Rhythmic nursery rhyme.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't hear music that way. I actually hear it on the deep way. Like I can tune my guitars with no tuner and tune instruments and make instruments, and I taught myself how to play.
Uh-oh.
So there's something else.
We got a Frozen thing happening here.
Well, I'm going on. You're going on. We're still recording. Let's see. Oh, we lost him. Okay, good time.